I'm Sachs, and you know this guy. I'm in so many thoughts and so many different emotions, including the experience of that ovation you just received. And I'm thinking back to '87 when the film first came out. This wasn't necessarily what the film received. And I want to know what this feels like being here tonight for you, and the recognition of what this film has meant to people.
Well, it's interesting about this film. I mean, I did it immediately after Room with a View. It seemed to me that the two stories were very, very similar. The two principal characters were very similar. And they were romantic young people who were ready to live a lie rather than follow their hearts. And that's why I was interested in making Maurice. And so it has a lot to, it's the two films in this era kind of lead together. And,
can you talk a little bit about what it was to watch the film tonight? You were there when every scene in the movie was shot. And I'm wondering what you remembered about actually the experience.
Oh, a lot. An awful lot, yeah. But I forget a lot too. You can't remember the whole world of making a film.
What scenes were the hardest for you? Do you remember what scenes were actually the most? Were they the romantic scenes, the sexual scenes?
No, they weren't. I don't know, just kind of spin it out. So there wasn't that much story in actually Forster's monologue. We had to kind of, we had to take away a lot, but we also had to build it up a lot. Well, I don't know. It came together easily enough when we did it, and there was something about making a film like that, set in that English past, which is very, very interesting, and you won't really see it much anymore. I mean, in that, they're so aware of the English caste system, and they're so aware of the lives of upper middle class and upper class people as opposed to the people from the middle class and lower classes. That's gone now in a way. I mean, yes, it's there, but it's not. We don't think about it. We don't make films about it anymore. And that was just watching that tonight was very interesting for me.
The book, Forster wrote the book, and then it wasn't published during his lifetime. It was
it couldn't be published during his lifetime because it had a happy ending. If it had had a happy ending, then it would be considered pornography until the 1960s. And then at that time, homosexuality was approved of as a facet of English life, and but he never published the book in his lifetime. And he had doubts about it, and he almost destroyed the book on several occasions. And friends of his wouldn't let him, and this kind of thing.
I'm wondering, this was made, as you said, after Room with a View. Did you feel like you were taking a risk to make a film such a...
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Yeah. What was the environment?
I didn't think that people would storm the theaters or do any sort of thing, or smash me up on the street. It was never going to happen. It never did happen.
This film was made in '87, which was really some of the worst moments of the AIDS crisis. And I'm wondering,
Yeah, true.
It was a dark time for the gay community, and I'm curious. I'm curious what it was like to make a movie in that. Period.
Well, there wasn't really a criticism of that, and people didn't come forward and say you really shouldn't do this. I mean, it's okay, really. I mean, and it was liked. The film was liked when it came out.
And do you feel at all that you were making a film that was trying to give a different type of story? Do you feel like the film was in opposition to what was happening in the real world at that moment?
No, I didn't feel that. I mean, but by '87,
Yeah.
you couldn't really feel that.
Yeah.
No,
No, I guess that in
the
a way.
real world had moved on an awful long ways in 1910 or 11, whenever the book was written.
Right, but I guess in a way the film is it's interesting because every scene is about secrecy, right? Every scene in the movie
Right.
until the conclusion,
Yeah.
which is this great liberated. For Forster, it was a fantasy,
Right.
right? And so in a way, the film provides fantasy for an audience at a time in which maybe they really needed it because of what was going on in '87.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I couldn't say about that. Whether I don't know. Could be.
I mean, I think for me, it did that tonight in the sense that I experienced it as someone, in a way, the film mirrors my own experience as someone who came of age as a gay man in the '70s and really, obviously, like many of us, and I imagine yourself, struggled with actually being, having expectations of love. And so even in today, 40 years later, I watch it and I get liberated by the film in a certain way. And so I don't know. It's both a true film and it's also a fairy tale, and I appreciate that. Is really what I would say.
I suppose. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Hugh Grant and how you discovered him?
Well, he made one other film, and someone must have told me. No, we actually met Hugh Grant when we were casting A Room with a View, and he came for the part that Daniel Day-Lewis played. But I didn't feel he was right. He didn't seem as interesting to me for that part as Daniel Day-Lewis did when he came. And Hugh Grant says that we threw him out in five minutes or 5 seconds. We had absolutely no interest in him at all for A Room with a View. So, and I must have remembered, I think I probably, or at least we had the same, it was the same casting director for both films, and she must have remembered, and I'm sure I'm calling back.
I think the
Celestia Fox.
and did you work with
The
her?
casting agent, yeah, I worked with her in practically everything I did. I did in England.
I
Yes.
see. The lead performance is really quite amazing. I think it's a very nuanced and complicated, and he does a beautiful job. And can you talk a little bit about working with that actor?
I don't know. I mean, I believe in letting actors show you what it is that they have thought up for themselves, or what they have felt about a part, what they want to do. I believe that they have like any artist, they have the right to show you first what they want to do. And you may not like that, or you may want to move it around a little bit, or slightly alter it, and so on. And I believe in letting them do that. And that's the way I work.
Does that mean you don't rehearse at all?
No, of course they rehearse. We rehearse. But actors, they feel it deep down inside themselves, and and I feel there's a difference between actors and directors. I mean, actors are actors are deep, directors are shallow. I mean, directors have to deal with a million different things. And you can't be as deep on everything as you would like to be. You just can't be. You don't have time. There's not time to do that. But an actor, with a part, they go way, 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 way down, really into their past, or the past of people that they knew, and they're deep. And it's from that that we put together this.
You're the first person I've ever heard say it in that way. And I really appreciate that. I think you're right. Yeah. No, I mean, actors do something on set which is inhuman, and directors do something which is very, very human, which is manage in a certain way. Can you talk about your relationship, and specifically on this film with Ishmael, and how you work together as a team, as a producer?
Well,
and a director?
we didn't have all the money for that film that we needed, and we were afraid we might run out. We didn't, luckily, but we were okay. But he was, as usual, nervous about whether we'd get through or not, or whether we'd break down in the middle, as happened, for instance, with Heat and Dust. No, he was always there, doing what he had to do.
Do you feel that one of you, did you take care of each other, or was there a job as the producer to, in a way?
Well, he certainly took care of me.
I don't know. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I was the director and I was spending all his money, and he certainly watched what I was doing.
Did you have conflict as a couple or as partners on set? I mean, was that something?
No, not really. No.
You saw things.
We never fought.
You never fought.
Well, we certainly fought horrible fights. Never on the set.
And this film you made, well, I think you were kind of my age now. I mean, James is 94 or something. No, 96. Hold on. Let him tell you.
No, in 2 months I'll be 97. Come on.
I gave you that, just to set you up there. And so you were making this film around, I'm 59, I think you were maybe 57 or my memory.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, what, like, when you made this film and then you went on to make many, many more, what do you think about the chapter that's come since Maurice? I mean, what do you think you learned from the film?
Well, it's not just a chapter since Maurice. It's a chapter since England. I mean, we made a number of English films, almost as many French films, which people don't realize. And but it was my English phase, and pretty much all came together, in a few years, basically.
And was this the end of your English phase, or the middle of your English phase, or the beginning?
No, there were other things that followed. I mean, not so long after that, we did The Golden Mole, and then The White Canvas is very much, a lot of that was English as well. I mean, it took place in Shanghai, but it had a lot to do with the English. Yeah.
Can you tell us, so 97 years ago, where were you born?
Berkeley, California.
And when did you discover your own sexual desire?
Fairly soon. I didn't hang around. I mean,
and did you, I guess I said that I relate to the closet that's in this film, and I'm curious what your 20s were like, and where were you living with them, and how?
I was living in Los Angeles, and then I was in the army in Germany, and then I was a lot in New York, because I had moved to New York in 1958 I still am there.
And you moved here to do what?
To New York.
What did you move to New York? What did you
I was working on a documentary, and I had to do more shooting for it, and it was easier. And it was an art film with works of art, and those works of art were in places like Washington and Boston and so on. And so I came here to do that, and then I went back. I went back to Los Angeles. But eventually, I came here to do more of that sort of thing, and then just work here.
And you met Ishmael here, or were
No, I met Ismail in well, yeah, I met him in New York. So he had just finished up a lot of work. Well, he'd come as an Indian foreign student to New York and went to the NYU Film School, and I met him here.
And I'm wondering, you've made 40 films? Is that a good number? Around that number?
44 or something.
44 films.
That's not me. You mentioned Ivory made.
Yes.
And he made a number of features himself, and then we backed other features or documentaries in some cases.
I'm wondering are there any that you particularly feel are the most personal to you?
Well, this one certainly would come in that category, I think. It would have to be. Yes, there are many, actually. But they're, like Mr. and Mrs. Bridge is one, particularly for me. Yeah.
You've worked.
That's a film of mine that I wish people could see. I think it's what Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, and they are extraordinary. And it's a film that we made in Kansas City with that couple. And it's an incredible film. I mean, if I must say so.
That's a film, in a way it's the opposite of this film, right? It's suffused with pain instead of with romance. And ultimately, it's a very, very sad film.
Yeah, it is a sad film.
Yeah. We might just take a couple of questions from this audience before we conclude.
I can't see anybody out there.
Yes, right there. Yes.
I passionately love this film, and it really opened up my journey of discovery for myself. And I started studying Edward Carpenter and all the people who are tangentially related to Forrester. And I was just curious, the thing that I was really taken with the novel was this concept of embracing the uniqueness of the soul, and the criticism in the book is, everyone is striving to be average, and I just really resonated with that message. And I was just wondering, is that a message in the book that you tried to translate to the screen, as far as society as a whole wants to remain safe and sort of fit into a certain safe form, whereas these characters are taking these incredible risks and not striving to be average. I'm just wondering if that theme was something you were trying to breathe into life with this film.
Well, it was, yeah, but they were very much not average. I mean, if you have to think when this story took place. It was, I think, written in 1914 or something like that. You have to think when the story took place and what the world was like then, and what England was like, and this country was like, and socially and sexually and so on, and class-wise and all the rest of it. It was very different. There was a huge difference in making this film and making Call Me By Your Name. Because in Call Me By Your Name, we had moved, everything had moved on into supposedly into the late 80s. There was the terrible stresses and strains and so forth that you see in the characters in this film. They're not there. when you get to something like Call Me By Your Name, that's all in the past. People were living as they wanted to live, and
Yeah, I mean, it's what you just described actually seemed to describe almost all of the films that you've made. It seems to me is the struggle between being a part of something and actually being an individual and finding some voice as an individual person. I think in many of your films that seems to be the awakening.
True. True.
Yeah, in the back there. Here comes the microphone. So the people on the balcony.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
I had a question about Clive as a character played by Hugh Grant. Every time I read the novel or I watch the film, I kind of go back and forth, and I'm curious of your read on him. Do you see him as a closeted gay man, or because he and Maurice never really fulfill the physical side of their relationship, do you see him as someone who maybe aspires to a homosexual ideal like they read in the Symposium, but he's actually not that? I'm just curious about your read on his sexuality as a character.
well, I think he had an intellectual way of dealing with all that, with love, affection, and masculine love, but it was not what we think of as in a sexual way. It was not. I mean, he stood back from that with that. That was, I don't know. I thought it was honest. It was what he felt. He said he thought it was going to bring everything down. Well, that's kind of crazy, but I mean, that's what he felt, and that's how he lived.
Can you say something about the ending of the film, ending with him, which is not in the book? And I'm curious if you remember how you came to that particular ending. And the wife is so incredible in that last scene. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell? Do you remember it all in the writing process?
Looking out the window and so
Yes,
on.
and also her reaction, her recognition.
Well, she knew something. She knew he was troubled. She didn't know what, but something, and he would never tell her, of course.
It's a beautiful scene.
So.
We have time for one more question. Up there in the balcony, yes.
I have a question. I was wondering what your budget was for this film.
It wasn't a tremendous amount of money. I don't know. It's kind of hard to remember those budgets.
There was enough.
I would have thought. I bet it was in the range of 5 or 6 million or something like that, pounds.
Up here.
Yes, go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, 44 movies? So you probably have had to navigate love a lot. My question is, you've also probably had a lot of bugs, I presume.
Why do you think that?
I just have a hunch. So my question is, who's the one that keeps coming back to you? Is there someone in your life, a love, that has that you've thought of a lot in a bunch of the movies? Who was that for? I don't know, maybe that's a crazy question. But is there someone that haunts you?
Well, the one that was, the person said, well, there are 2 people central to my life, my regular life and my creative life, and that was, one was Isabel Merchant, and the other was Ruth John Holland. And, I mean, somehow between them, they sort of formed me. And, so those are the ones I mainly think of, and I recall the most and being with the most. And I was with Isabel for more than 40 years, and Ruth the same. I don't know. It's sort of hard to. But I mean, I have some very good friends that I've known all years, and I'm still close to them. But
I'm going to ask just one last question, which is, this film didn't, obviously films don't come from nowhere, and you as a gay man who was making cinema, I'm curious what films for you gave you sight? What films gave you direction, both in terms of the content of the film and also just as inspiration?
Well, I think they all had to. I mean, they all gave, each was a direction. It's somewhere, in some kind of story, or in some sort of place.
Are there particular filmmakers who you feel like taught you?
Of whom I'm conscious?
Yes, who were part of your education, as you say.
Well, I see it later sometimes. Sometimes I go see a movie and I go, oh, that reminds me of us. I'd be talking about someone from 1940. I mean, but I don't think like that. I never have. And we're just doing our...
You follow the story.
Well, yeah, and what the three of us concocted for so many years.
Thank you for what you concocted.